A few minutes prior, Deg had either gotten a hold of or been informed that another crew member had gotten a hold of every member of the Nebula's crew save one. Thankfully, he knew precisely where Tonnet would be, that is, exactly where they'd been the entire time on board the station, fielding questions from and throwing questions at a number of Terran scientists who had their lab on the main floor. As Deg made his way back over there, he was jostled by a large human walking in the opposite direction.
Oh, apologies.
Deg started.
No need, sir. The fault was mine, wasn't watching where I was going. Please accept my apologies.
I appreciate that.
The man paused for a moment as if thinking.
Say,
Yes?
I hate to make assumptions, but given there aren't too many non-humans around here, you wouldn't happen to be a part of that Osean ship's crew, would you? The one that came in for repair.
I'm its captain, actually.
Captain? You don't say. What luck. Saw the damage when she came in. Nasty stuff. But that's not what I wanted to ask about. The security officer you have is human, no? Woman. Large, even by...
Penelope, yes. She's been, what was your term? Old religious one. Godsend?
I bet, Scylla. Yes. You've hit the jackpot in terms of experience and capability.
You know her?
Oh, yes. That's what I wanted to ask you about. We're not especially close, I wouldn't say. Haven't seen her in quite a while, but I'd love to get in touch with her. Unfortunately, I am in a bit of a rush myself. Not all of us have the same luck in hiring competent allies as you. If you wouldn't mind terribly giving this to her, though, it would allow me to say hello and catch up.
He handed Deg a small communication device. It had no speaker or microphone, and its small screen was practically primitive. It seemed capable of little more than text messages.
Of course.
Deg said as he examined the fascinating little piece of tech.
Who should I say gave me this?
As he looked up, the man was gone. Deg looked around, but it was as if he'd vanished into thin air. As he searched the crowds, he noticed a hunched old human matron was staring at, or perhaps past him. She was shaking her head.
Had to run, indeed.
He kept the pager close and made his way to the lab. Tonnet wasn't eager to be taken away from their newfound friends, but Deg managed after a while, and the two headed back to the nebula. Back to present time. Penn slowly walked over to Deg and took the small thing. It was older tech, a little before her time. It wasn't made to do too much, but in its simplicity there was a reliability, which was the whole point, she supposed. A pregnant silence filled the room. She looked back and forth between the coin that wasn't hers and the old comm.
Penn, is everything...
Deg started but was cut off as Penn suddenly pushed past him. She was making for the bridge of the ship at a healthy pace, and both Deg and Gareth ran to keep up with her. Hastily, she went to her security station, flipped the screens on, and pulled up the security cameras.
Deg, the security cameras should have been recording during the repairs, right?
Yeah, they keep running as a part of emergency systems, so even with main power out, they'd stay on with auxiliary power.
She backtracked through the footage from the present moment to a few hours previous. The timestamp read only a few minutes after the main bulk of the crew had departed for the station plaza. The first clue that she'd found what she was looking for was the cargo bay camera feed suddenly going dark. Penn paused and played the footage forward, but could only catch a small blip of a figure walking away from the ship. Nothing much to go on. She went back further and watched as each camera that led from the cargo bay to the hallway outside her room blinked out just as the figure would have been in its view. After a minute of nothing but cut camera feeds, the hallway cam suddenly cut back in for a few seconds before cutting out again. The figure, blurred by the sped-up motion, was certainly in frame. Penn played that short section forward at normal speed. As the feed cut in, the figure was staring directly at the camera. He raised his left hand to his face and made a sort of call me motion before pulling out a very familiar coin and flipping it in the air. With a deft hand, he caught the coin and waved it at the camera, at her. A quick flip of his wrist and the feed went dark once again. She didn't think it would give them much more. but she let the feeds reverse. Each cut in order: an empty hallway, an empty doorway, an empty cargo bay. Nothing more than a small blip of a figure walking past technicians as it made its way towards the ship. Penn pulled up a freeze frame of the short moments he allowed the camera to catch him and studied him. Gareth and Dig both sat a little stunned, and the level of focus Penn was levying on the screen. There wasn't much to take away, unfortunately. He was dressed to obscure any and all identifiable markers. He wore a heavy, all-weather cloak that wrapped around to his front. A breather mask covered his entire face, too. Still, Penn seemed to scan every inch of the figure and commit it to memory. After a very long few moments, she finally spoke.
Is this him?
She looked to Deg.
I can't say for sure, but it could be. The cloak is the same.
You saw his face?
Yeah.
Describe him.
Well, big, obviously, but big like you. The broader shoulders like that, grayish hair, and he had hair around his mouth like some other humans, but it was short.
Anything else? Skin color? Any markings?
I'm sorry, Penn. My attention was more on the device, and he just disappeared so quickly. I didn't get a good look. I think I only noticed the hair because it stood out compared to you. I take it this man is no friend of yours.
Given what he's done, I'd say not, but it doesn't make sense.
What he's done? You think he is connected to the explosion?
Anraxia, as well as the derelict ship, if I had to bet on it. It all fits together quite nicely, except,
What?
well, the loser on Raxia was fighting for keeps, not that it amounted to much. Yet the sharpshooter who executed him could have hit me and still gotten to him, but chose not to. Then there's the bomb. Clear sign there, and yet he walks into my room and doesn't leave another bomb?
If these are all connected, it's as if he can't make up his mind.
Deg pondered.
He didn't seem to hold any malice for you when he spoke to me. He called you a friend, or at least close to a friend.
He could simply be a psychopath.
Gareth deadpanned.
A psycho with a very complex and well-established operation. They generally don't attract many followers, and they don't have the disciplined personality needed to run something capable of everything we've seen.
I suppose you could
Deg looked to the pager.
ask.
Penn looked down at it and sighed. It was the only reliable way of getting information, but it was also exactly what this person wanted.
I don't see any other choice, but I need to think. You okay if you get underway without me?
Deg nodded.
Absolutely, but I feel it isn't too much of me to ask that you not keep anything of this secret from us. At this point, it involves this ship and every member of the crew.
Penn nodded, a sharp pang twisting in her chest, and she walked off to her room. She sat on her bed and stared at the two little items she'd put on her desk. A good few minutes passed, and if her gaze could impart force, she'd have crushed them by now. Finally, though, she stood, walked over to the desk, and grabbed the pager. Her fingers worked over the simple keypad. Was all she sent? There was a pause before a response reached her.
Well, well, she speaks.
What do you want?
Firstly, a chance to redo first impressions. I very much think we know I failed to get off on the right foot. I will clarify here and now that any attempt on your life or the lives of that crew were not on my order. In fact, they were in direct violation of my orders. They were, however, still my fault. I assure you I have put things right in that regard. Offenders have been punished.
All right.
With that said, I'll move to the other matter. I've actually been trying to reach out to you for quite some time now. You haven't made it easy.
If this is about the weapons crates, I've already handed them back to UMC hands. That a problem?
Oh no, not at all. I would have liked them, but I'm just as happy to see you put them to good use.
Then what? All this sneaking onto the ship and chasing me down. Why not just meet in person?
Trust me, Scylla, that is what I would have preferred, but I figured the debacle with that moron Arthur might have colored your perception. And then the bomb situation. I wouldn't have blamed you for attacking me outright. So, though I would prefer to do things more directly, I thought to explain myself before we do. And I do intend to meet in person. Before all the interceding issues, the idea was to make you an offer.
You were the marksman?
No, but she works under me. Talented, but not like us. At least not yet.
Who are you?
I left my coin to get your attention, but also as a small clue. You know we've actually spoken before. This isn't our first meeting.
Your coin?
Oh, yes. We were stationed aboard the same ship. If only for a week. I was made to step down and Alvarez took my place. I was leaving and you were arriving. We really didn't have much contact because of that, but please, Scylla, call me Charybdis. I think you'll like what I'm offering.